Good morning, good morning. What a lovely morning. Oh, the sun is low in the sky. We're in the final month of the shorter days. Now, about to do a quick bit of peeping and creeping. That's it. But it's the day when it's difficult to drive because the sun's so low in the sky. If you're driving east in the morning or southeast or southwest or west in the evening. I had to drive 2 hours yesterday to pick up a spare part, which the bloke gave me free because he must me about so much. I buy farm equipment from a British firm called Teagle, Teagle, and I've had a couple of, I wouldn't say run-ins with them, but I mean I've had a couple of problems with their stuff, which I've it's the only bit of farm equipment I've ever had any trouble with, really. And it's a big 5-foot topper, what they call a topper, which means it's a big, like, rotating cutting blade that's 5 foot across in diameter. And you run it over, you can run it over anything, really. You can run it over grass to keep it short. You can run it over brambles to cut brambles down and stuff like that. But it was great just for, cutting the fields. That's really what it's for. It's not for school playgrounds, school playing fields and stuff. The sort of kit you want for a school playing field is a tractor pulling a multi-gang lawnmower of the rotating blade type, the scythe type. Bit like the one your dad had, who used to push it along and cut stripes. And then they have rollers in front of them and they have rollers behind them as well. So not only do they cut the ground really, cut the grass really well, they roll it flat as well. But this is quite good for rough cutting grass. And the good thing about it is that even if the grass is like a foot high or even 2 foot high, you can, with a couple of passes, you can get it right down to ground level again, sure. Although it's very coarse after it's been cut like that. So I ran into a telegraph pole that was lying on its side. It was an old second-hand telegraph pole, and I bent the side of it, and anyway, I contacted Teagle and they said, look, it's no point contacting us for spares. You need to get in touch with our local dealer network. Now, the problem with local dealer networks is that they're never as good as the manufacturers like to think. They sort of pretend. They delude themselves. They don't really want to run a dealer network. So what they do is they say to local dealers, do you want to act as a dealer for Teagle? And you can sell the farm equipment, which you'll get you'll probably get good profit margin on. And also but part of that is that obviously you have to sell the spares. But don't worry, you don't have to keep the spares. You can order the spares from us and we'll next day them from, to you. So anyway, it was a right royal pain in the doodah to get this part. And so in the end, I took it to a local engineering firm and they straightened out the guard that was bent and it worked out quite well. Then next thing that happened is that on these, you probably know on the tractors on the back, a tractor's got a 3-point lifting frame. It's got two points at the bottom that do the main lifting, and then one at the top which does mostly the tilting. and the topper has got 3 pins on it, and you back the tractor up and you put the lifting frame over the pins and then lock them in, and then it lifts it up. Well, one of these pins broke, and again, it was my fault. I was cutting the grass and there was a hidden tree stump, and I hit the stump and it fractured the pin. So I rang up Teagle again and I said, look, can I order one of these pins? And they're the same. Or, you'll have to get in touch with one of our dealer networks. And I said, look, the last time, so I really want this just posted to me. Now, the problem is I'm obviously very well used to using Amazon. I've got a friend called Jeff who sends me everything next day, free postage free. And you sort of, that's the bar, isn't it? That's the hurdle that they have to overcome. They have to prove that they can do something approaching that in terms of service. That's where they need to aspire to. But he's like, no, you have to, I'm sure one of the dealers will post one to you. So I rang up the dealer and said, I need a lifting pin. And then a month later, it still hadn't come. So I rang him up again and I said, what happened to that lifting pin? Oh, I forgot to order it. But don't worry, leave it with me. So I left it with him again. A month later, still hadn't arrived. Where's my lifting pin? Oh, bollocks. Yes. You did order one of those, didn't you? Yeah, that's right. I remember now. So anyway, he rings me back and he said, look, I've got one here. He said, because I've mucked you about so much, you can have it. I'll give it to you free of charge. So I'm like, right. He said, but you'll have to collect it. So here's a bloke who, when I went to collect it yesterday, I said to him, I was really hoping that someone would post these. And he said, well, we normally do. And I felt like saying to him, well, why didn't you then? But the thing is, already in his mind, in return for him completely cocking up my order, he's giving me a free pin. Now, as far as he's concerned, a free pin is more than adequate compensation for the fact that he forgot to sell me one. And the fact that I had to drive over there and it took me an hour, and I had to drive back, it took me an hour. So that's 2 hours out of my Sunday and half a tank of petrol. But there's no way he was going to post it to me. And there's no way that I felt I could push him to post it to me, because if I said to him, look, Phil, if I send you the money, can you post it to me? He'd have said yes or no. But he probably would have said yes, and then a month later I'd be on the phone to him again saying, I sent you the money a month ago, Phil, where's the pin? And he'd go, oh yeah, that's right, you did ask me to post it. So I'm thinking, bird in the bush. No, not good enough. I need a bird in the hand. So I drove over there and just literally, and he was like, he had the pin in his hand. And I could see he was like reluctant to give it to me. He was reluctant to transfer ownership. He was like, he kept turning it over and over in his hand and looking at it, and fondling it and just remembering the tactile sensation of what it used to feel like before he relinquished the title. So I just stood there and we was just chatting, and then eventually he just said, yeah, well, there you are then. So I'm like, okay. So once I had it in my grubby hands, that was like, I was like, what a shame you don't work like Amazon. I felt I could be a bit more bold then, because, up to that point, he could have just turned around and said, look, I know I said I'll give it to you for nothing, but, they're worth 20 quid, these pins, or 50 quid. I don't know. So I think I'm going to have to charge you something. And having driven all the way over there, you know, it would have been a bugger to have come back again. Without it. So, you know, I said, Teagle, I don't like the way Teagle does things. They've got this dealer network, which is, quite frankly, you know, without putting too fine a point on it, useless. I couldn't be too rude because he was the dealer network. But Teagle are like, oh yeah, well, you know, our dealers will sort you out. But I think Teagle have basically, they've just come around and said people like, do you want to be an agent for Teagle? You know, we'll give you, I don't know, 15%, 30% even of everything you sell, plus you may make a margin on the spares. And someone who probably doesn't care much one way or the other, I said, yeah, I don't mind extra income. And then, but there's no quality control. You know, there's no, Teagle don't care at that point. Their customers, they probably, I mean, I know that they won't say that they take this attitude, but their attitude is, well, we've already sold the equipment. And so you know, after that, it's up to the dealers the sort of service they provide. But I don't think Teagle understands that the sort of service the dealers provide is what people regard as the Teagle service. And that's why whenever you buy anything, I mean, certainly when I bought my new mower, one of my main considerations was the fact that I bought it from a local firm, which is not so much that, I mean, it does need to be collected and delivered. So, you know, I'm not going to buy it from a firm in Leeds. They're not going to collect it and deliver it, are they, for servicing? But I've collected and delivered locally is good. But the biggest thing is that if I get really pissed off, I can get in my car and drive down the showroom with a board on a stick, if necessary, and do a one-man protest on the pavement outside. So, you know, you have to think about follow-up, don't you? You have to think about the maintenance and stuff like that. And certainly dentistry now, I mean, dentistry used to have a dealer network type service. In fact, to be honest with you, I was quite surprised that Teagle still do it that way. Certainly for spares. I mean, certainly for spares that are going to be posted out. You've got this stupid sort of conundrum, haven't you, whereby I'll go over the top there. I'll keep going on to London and then turn right and go over the top of the airport. If I turn right here, then you generally tend to get into a traffic jam going into Ramsgate. Look at the cloud on the left there. That's really, there's a lot of rain coming down over there. Yeah, so you get this strange situation where the manufacturer who holds the spares, the distributor or the agent requests the spares, and then they send the spares to the agent next day, and then the agent then, you know, well, he's got a choice, isn't he? He can arrange for the customer to come and pick them up, or he can deliver them, or he can post them out. But either way, it's so inefficient, isn't it, as a system? Even if, and this does happen sometimes, you can ask the distributor, if you pay the distributor, you can ask the distributor to request to the manufacturer that they send the spare direct to the customer. But the manufacturers don't like doing that because it opens up a bit of a loophole, doesn't it? Whereby their stuff might get distributed through a non-Tegel approved distributor. They can't, they'd rather have a list of addresses that they're allowed to send stuff to, who've been vetted, and everyone else know. And just to be honest, it's just a means of keeping prices up. It's a price monopoly. That's all it is. It's just a protectionist racket. And in the old days, there was only really two, in the southeast anyway, there were two distributors. There was Cotterell's and there was a firm called Dental Supply and Engineering, who were distinguished by the fact that they had the telephone number 01234 5678, which was, a great phone number. And but there you couldn't buy anything from them because you have to go back. Wavy effect. You have to go back to before the internet, and you have to go back to before mobile phones. And so if you wanted to buy something, you used to wait. The rep used to come round once a week, and he used to come round, once a week on the same day, on a Monday or something, and he would generally arrange to arrive lunchtime or whatever. And then if you the receptionist would have a list of stuff that you wanted to buy, like alginate and local anaesthetic, etc. And he'd always have a ton of stuff that was on special. This is on special. That's on special. This new product, you might want to try that out. Oh, it's really good. It's really good. And they were on a commission, these reps. And sometimes they would say to you, look, we know we're going to get a fat bonus if we sell so many pounds of this stuff, pounds worth. And so can you please order it? Because everything is on a sale or return basis. If you don't like it, you can always just send it back. And so we know, you've already said you don't want it. But all I want you to do, so I can get my bonus as a favour to me, can you just order it? And then next time I come round, I'll take it back. So all this sort of jiggery pokery was going on. And as a young associate in the early 80s, I wasn't at all happy with the sort of weird shit that was being suggested. It was all part of the old boys' way of doing business, and I wasn't interested in ordering materials. I placed far more emphasis on the clinical dentistry and the pure sort of business side of things, rather than the old boys network, which was very much how dentistry operated from 48, I suppose, through to and still does to a certain extent. I think if I'm looking back, some of my failure can be attributed to the fact that I wasn't social enough. I wasn't obsequious enough, subservient enough, whatever, 4-syllable word. And it worked against me, I said, when I was made secretary of the General Dental Practitioners Association, I said to the council, I'm replacing a secretary who was all social and no achievement, and I intend to be a secretary that is all achievement, but I don't care whether I'm liked or not. And sure enough, I wasn't. Because if you go into a job like that with a mandate, a personal mandate to cause change, you upset things. You're a big stone in a small pool of people who quite like the way things are done, and nobody likes change except a wet baby, as they say. So I don't know. I mean, I think what happened was, the ranks of the dental establishment closed against me and the GDPA by association, and so as a result, in a way, we became less effective. We were more effective in certain ways, with the Doctors and Dentists Review Body. We became ostracised by the Department of Health and the target of their comms department. Whatever we said was ridiculed, and you can't fight the Department of Health comms department. I mean, really, it's a massive PR firm run by the state, and with access to all the main organs of state, such as the Times newspaper and the BBC. So you're not gonna, your message is not going to get across. It doesn't matter how much you think you're in the right, or how much thinking you've done on policy or whatever. Department of Health is going to steamroller you, and they do it by shunning you as well. By not inviting you to press conferences, by not inviting you to briefings. Dentistry Magazine, for example, was famous because it was never at the Department of Health briefings, because it used to get a private briefing, and that private briefing used to consist of certain high-ranking, people like Julian English and that used to get invited to cricket matches, at which the chief dental officer was also present, allegedly, and so really they had their inside track on everything, and that's why those of us who were, I was often dispatched as an association represented dentist and a policy-based association. I was often at a Department of Health meeting with a bunch of basically 20-year-old scribes who had just been told, right, today the Department of Health is having a press briefing, just get down there and just report back. Don't have no intention or ability to even understand the implications of what was being said or ask an intelligent question. Just transcribe, shorthand if necessary, if possible, what was being said, and then just let us know, so that we don't have to send anyone important. But you can get your taxi fare back, and if you like, get yourself a bite of lunch while you're out. And for a sort of a cub dental reporter, that was quite a good gig. But that was the way we had to do business as one of the two major dental associations representing general practitioners. Anyway, a bit rambly, but this is all about dealer networks and how they in dentistry, they sort of died a death because they weren't fit for purpose. Anyway, I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.